Wolf Theiss Soundshot. Insights and analysis from one of the leading law firms in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe. Welcome to a new episode of the Wolf Theiss Soundshot Influencer Edition. In this episode, marketing expert Anna Bonfiglio and Wolf Theiss partner Georg Hösbach will discuss the implications of advertisement labeling in social media and how different legislation in the European market can affect social media marketing strategy. Anna has extensive experience working with social media personalities and their clients as key account manager and brand strategist and promoting her own enterprise Bonfiglio Fashion. She is recognized as an industry leader by Creative Club Austria and the International Advertising Association. Georg is a partner in our Vienna office and specializes in intellectual property law, telecommunication, media and technology, as well as data protection and cybersecurity. He closely follows developments in internet-related legislation and helps clients bridge the gap between the legal framework and the consumer's expectations.
Hi Anna, good to meet you. Today we want to talk about a special form of advertising in social media, influencer marketing. I think we should first explain to our audience what exactly influencer advertising is, and then work out whether and what legal requirements need to be observed. Let's start with a quite prominent case that happened in Germany last year. It's the Kathi Hummel case. Kathi Hummels, a German TV moderator and wife of German soccer star Mats Hummels, was accused by the German Association Sozialer Wettbewerb of failing to label several posts on her Instagram as advertising. Kathi Hummels has more than 600,000 followers on Instagram. On her Instagram profile, she presents fashion. For some of these presentations, she had advertising contracts with fashion companies. Accordingly, Kathi had labeled these contributions explicitly as paid partnership. However, there had been several other posts showing fashion stuff as well, in which this reference was missing. For these posts, Kathi Hummels received no consideration from the companies in question. I do this for free because this is my passion, said Kathi Hummels during the court proceedings. New World treats advertising like Old World. The question the courts in Germany had to deal with was whether such posts on social media must be explicitly labeled as advertising. To cut a long story short, the court in Munich ruled influencers are not subject to stricter standards than print media, such as Women's Magazine and the like. In the old world, product references in magazines are permitted without this being considered covered advertising, Schleichwerbung in German. Print media do not do anything different. Informed internet users would know that Kathi Hummels was pursuing commercial interest with their Instagram profile. So, no unfair business practice, no violation of labeling obligations. However, the case is now at the German Federal Court of Justice. Hence, there's no final decision yet. My first question to you would be the following. Are you aware of any such cases like the Kathi Hummels case in Austria?
So, hello. Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm very glad to share my thoughts on that with you. To your question, I'm not really aware of such extreme cases as in Germany for Austria, because after there were a lot of warnings in Germany, many influencers reacted quickly and labeled everything as advertising, like almost every post, which is also wrong. But yes, also brands and agencies reacted and adapted all their contracts with influencers that advertising labeling must be provided in any campaign. So I think that's the reason why there are not so many cases in Austria or known cases, because everyone reacted really quick.
Right, I'm not aware of any such cases pending in Austria. But in Germany, there are much more influencer cases before the courts. But as already said, no final decisions by the German Federal Court of Justice. Let's see how it develops. Let's turn to the next point. Anna, what exactly is influencer advertising? Can you explain it?
Yes, influencer marketing is like the targeted use of a person or an opinion leader with a wide-ranging community for a marketing and communication purpose. Like the goal is to increase the value and credibility of a brand message based on the trust of that person and based on the respective target group of this influencer.
Well, So being authentic is the key word, I understand. Feel like a friend and believe what you see. And how to become an influencer.
Yeah, I mean, today it can be very difficult to become an influencer because there's so many, but you can find a niche for you that does not yet exist, and you can jump on new channels such as TikTok, for example, because there you can build up an immense number of followers in a short time through creative content. So you have to be creative, you have to show something new, you have to be different, and maybe use new platforms, because on Instagram, for example, it's so difficult to grow organically today. So yeah, best would be jump on new channels and put a lot of time into it and patience, because otherwise it will be very difficult.
Sounds not that easy.
No, it's
But
not.
what makes influencer advertising so attractive for the public?
Yeah, I mean, for example, for brands or agencies and for advertising, it's very attractive because hardly any medium is used as much as social media. So the use of social media is exploding, and brands can easily place themselves exactly where most people actually are. And influencers can emotionalize a brand or a product through their personality or through a story they tell. And even if influencer marketing is becoming more and more expensive, you can still set up campaigns with a lower budget that cannot be compared to costs in the classic areas such as TV and print. And you can also address more direct than, for example, on TV, because you know the demographic numbers of the community of the influencer. And yeah, what more, you could also like fix in advance with an influencer in the contract that you can use his content, for example. So the influencer could produce content for your brand, would upload it on his channel, and then you could use the content too for your own brand channel. So that makes it very attractive.
And who should be the real targets of influencer?
It's based on what you want to promote, but basically everyone who is active on social media can be targeted. So advertising becomes interesting and successful when you choose the right influencer for your product, which has the right community. So whether you go for a mass or rather a niche probably depends on the budget and the product you want to advertise and promote. So in any case, it makes sense to set a goal before each campaign and to choose the right creator or influencer, and of course also the right channels, for example Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. So setting a goal in advance is extremely important to reach your target.
Has influencer advertising changed over the years?
Yes, I guess it changed a lot, especially with regard to the labeling we were talking before. And in my experience, fewer and fewer campaigns are being developed, like right creative campaigns and creative storytelling behind a post, because mostly only the product is tested or shown today, but less and less often a story is built behind it. So in the past, when there was not so much labeling, agencies thought about how they could integrate a product into posts in a very credible and hidden or authentic way. So agencies thought about how they could integrate a product into posts in a very credible way. And now that you have to tag it anyway, I feel like the influencer would be straightforward and would talk into the camera, and they would say, hey guys, I have a new cooperation with that brand and this is the product. So they won't think of a story anymore behind that. So I think this is what changed in the last couple of years.
Very, very interesting, I must say. And do you have to be a celebrity to be a successful influencer? Or, for instance, can everybody become influencer?
You don't have to be a celebrity, but of course it is easier for a big influencer with many followers to get advertising corporations. However, I think it's important that these followers are also real and that the engagement stands in proportion and fits to the follower amount. So it's not enough to be big and have a lot of followers, but your community has to be active. And I think that influencer marketing can also be very successful with smaller niche profiles, and you don't always have to go with a big influencer. So I think you can be successful with less followers if you have special content. For example, if you're a brand that sell fishing accessories, it makes more sense to work with a small influencer who has content about fishing and a community interested into fishing instead of working with a huge celebrity influencer. So you have to
Okay.
find a niche, I think.
Okay, well understood. But coming back to the labeling requirements, I think that the most important stuff for this kind of campaigns should influencer advertising be labeled as promotion advertising or something like this? And would that rather disrupt or promote the success of the advertising?
I think they should be labeled, yes, of course, because a posted photo or video is always advertising if the influencer gets something in return, so it has to be labeled. It gets more complicated with products or services that the influencer receive for free, for example, in order to present them online. But also in that case, the influencer has to label it like it's an invitation or a gift. So yeah, there are some rules that must be observed and also followed. But for the success of advertising, there are several opinions on this because some are convinced that influencer marketing is effective primarily because followers do not recognize that many posts are advertising. So as soon as all promotional posts are not only tagged with hashtag ad, which nobody sees, but also clearly indicated in the picture or at the beginning of the video that it is advertising, credibility could drop actually. But there are also some antitheses that makes sense from my point of view because user recognize very easily but not always completely when a post, for example, is advertising. As long as it fits, is creatively and authentically incorporated and supports the influencer and his idea and is credible, it will be accepted from the users and the community because they are following the influencer. And even if this advertising is consciously perceived as such, the influencers usually enjoy a great deal of trust in the target group since they are more or less known or more or less friends. And perhaps user and follower also know that the influencer only accepts collaborations that he or she can stand behind. So many influencers, they say, I'm only working with brands I actually like. So I think it works, it still works. Yeah, while some think that influencer marketing would be damaged and brought to the same level as classic advertising due to the labeling and would therefore lose its power, others think that the relationship between the influencer and his community remains stable. So there are many views, and the perspectives on that are very contradictory. So it's not easy for many responsible person as a brand manager or in agency to make the right decision whether to label it really big or to make such as hidden advertising. And the fact is that even now that so much is being labeled, the whole influencer marketing continues to work. So I would say label it always and do not exaggerate with cooperation as an influencer, and then everything should be safe, I guess.
Got it. Seems to me a very strict and cautious approach. I like it. In Germany, the German courts stating the following: the more the promotion character is obvious and recognizable to the public, the less the advertising needs to be labeled. But the crucial question is always where drawing the line. My advice would also be, and in order to be on the safe side, to label promotions explicitly as promotion, such as sponsored by or promotion above the posting or the video and beginning of the video and like this. What does really not work is to hide the labeling at the very bottom of a posting. Because nobody is scrolling the text until the very end of a post. So to say just at the end, the very end of a posting, this is promotion or this is sponsored, that would not work. And I recommend not to do so. On the other side, what is also interesting from the German case law so far is the more followers an account has, the easier it is to recognize that's advertising, in fact. So we are speaking about thousands, not to say millions of followers. And then the court say, hey, people will realize that it's not just for fun, but the account is trying to promote something. And in these special cases, one could argue, okay, no strict need to label it as a promotion. And coming to the next topic, are you aware of cases where someone has pretended to be an influencer, but in fact he was not?
I mean, pretending of being an influencer, somehow yes, but not really, because of the large number of influencers, even smaller profiles know that you get something in return for posts or advertising in whatever form that may be, whether it's payment or free products. So I think that this doesn't happen that often because they want to have products for that. So yeah, but what happens often, I saw that a lot of times on social media, working for a brand, is that very young Instagrammers who have hardly any followers write to a brand asking if they can be sponsored. And sometimes they post brand content in advance, then send it to the brand privately and hope to be reposted, for example, or ask for a sponsored product. Like, hey, I posted a picture of your brand, of your product. Could you send me some free samples? So, of course, it can happen that someone pretends to have an official cooperation with a brand. So, I certainly seen this before. Sometimes it was obviously meant as a joke. Sometimes they hope to get samples in return for that.
Yeah, I would rather be cautious in this regard because pretending to have a sponsorship with brands could be understood as a misleading advertisement, yeah, but would violate the Unfair Competition Act. Now, a very important question. Is it true that influencers get rich quickly?
Um, no, I mean, no. I think, like in Austria, for example, there aren't that many influencers who really can make 100% living from that. Because apart from possible long-term cooperation, you really work from project to project and you can't foresee if jobs will come in. And you have constantly stay active and produce a lot of relevant content. So that Instagram wouldn't knock you backwards. So you always have to post something. So it's a lot of work. And I think it's harder than it looks. But of course, there are some big influencer stars who have built up an extremely large number of followers over the years. And depending on their standard of living, they probably can work maybe with 3 posts a month for a good living. It's not normal.
Okay, so I will stay being loyal.
Yeah,
Now,
I think.
coming to an end and with an eye on the future, what comes after influencer advertising? New forms of promotions?
I think there can be many new forms of advertising, but staying at influencer advertising, this will also evolve in the future. And I think that for influencer and for new forms, especially, the whole video content will be very important, which already is very important, especially in form of reels and TikToks. And reels and TikToks are like very short video snippets that sometimes only last like 15 seconds, which are very good because you can communicate in a very short form. And also podcasts, because they gained a lot of popularity in the last few years already, but are more and more important. And for example, now a new social media network, Clubhouse, which was launched, I think, last year, but now is extremely popular for 2 weeks here in Austria. And it's a platform which is purely auditory. So you can join talks, you can talk about topics and nothing visual, so just talking. So I think podcasts and video would be interesting for the future instead of blog posts, magazine articles, and just simple photos. And what more, like the gamer scene will gain relevance, I guess. I mean, already now, like Twitch are very popular. And in future, I think many brands could or can integrate their products with gamers on Twitch, like maybe a live stream, and then you can add your product. And for influencer advertising, in my opinion, it would be nice to work with micro influencers, which I said before, like the example with the fishing accessories. I think they will dominate the market instead of big stars. And also the whole virtual augmented reality area, you can also combine it with influencers. And I think also due to the corona pandemic, a lot of technology is being developed to enable like virtual reality shows with influencers or models, for example, for big events like the Fashion Week, where suddenly maybe an influencer is walking on a catwalk in a virtual way. So I think there is a lot of potential in this whole virtual area for the future.
Yeah,
So
great, Anna. This sounds all very exciting and promising. Thanks, Anna, again. It was very helpful to talk to you about influencer marketing.
thank you too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Wolf Theiss Soundshot. For more information, you can contact us via email at soundshot@wolftheiss.com or visit our website at www.wolftheiss.com. You can also follow us here to receive further updates on developments in law and business from one of the leading law firms in Central, Eastern, and Southeastern Europe.